Welcome in, everybody. A little bit of a, midday Monday bonus episode of the Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. Doing something completely different, completely off the cuff. We have late breaking news, good news, and I just think it felt like the right thing to do because Deion Sanders just hosted a press conference. For people who do not know, Deion Sanders has basically been essentially MIA over the course of the summer. Did appear at Big 12 Media Days, but there was some we weren't aware of what the medical issue was. Well, Deion Sanders and his doctors just held a press conference where they announced that he did have bladder cancer. The bladder cancer is cured. His life is obviously irrevocably different, but he is cancer-free. He is going to coach in 2025, and there's a lot to be grateful for. And so today, we like to have fun. We like to relax. We like to do, goofy stuff on this show. But I think today's going to be a little bit of a more serious show just for people who did not get to watch the press conference live, do not know exactly what happened. Figured I'd just spend, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, talking about this. This isn't, we're not reacting to it because it's like, oh my goodness, it was very emotional if you watched it. It was surreal. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that I am glad that Deion Sanders is okay. So we're going to go ahead and break it all down in a minute. Before we get started, all the normal reminders. Make sure you're subscribed to Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. We went live on Sunday night. Didn't think we were going to be going live again Monday afternoon, but here we are. So make sure to subscribe. You can also subscribe on Apple and Spotify as well. And very quickly, do want to give a shout out. We'll do the Collie Puffs later because we do have late breaking news. And that is, like I said, Deion Sanders. Okay, so let's backtrack. Okay. So Sunday. So I think bigger picture, I want to just set this up for people who haven't followed this story kind of on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Basically, Deion Sanders has been for probably the last 2.5, 3 months really sort of MIA, okay? And there's been these, vague reports about health and about this, and he's out. But he was making public appearances here and there. He was at Big 12 Media Days 2 weeks ago. He was at Buccaneers training camp last week where Shiloh Sanders, his son, plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of in a, with the team. And so because of it, it was this weird thing of there's some sort of medical issue. Nobody knows, but he's making just enough appearances where he in some way, shape, or form, we hope is okay. But then on Sunday night, we get this announcement that Colorado is holding a press conference with Deion Sanders and his doctors, okay? And so long story short, I think there were really three kind of avenues. One, it's the opening of training camp. We know there was some sort of medical condition. Let's get the doctors in. I think that was part number one. But I think there were two other parts to this as well. One was, oh boy, he's really sick. Something is going on. He either cannot coach or he is going to retire. And then I think there were the bad actors, if you will, who basically said, oh, I knew all along the second that Shedeur left and the second that Shiloh left and the second that Travis Hunter left, Coach Prime was going to be leaving as well. And I'll just say this really quick because I want to get into what we learned, but I always thought that was the stupidest thing. Why would he go to Big 12 Media Days 2 weeks ago if he was going to sneak out the side door? It was stupid. It was awful. And I think transparently, I just think there's some people that do not like Deion Sanders, and no matter what he says, no matter what he does, could save a slew of kittens falling out of a burning building, they would still complain about him. And so I thought it was nonsense, but let's get into what we learned today. And what we learned was pretty straightforward, is that Deion Sanders, over the course of the last couple months, so he went in for a routine checkup, with kind of the Colorado medical team. They immediately get a call, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not a doctor, but they get a call, and that call basically says, hey, you got to come in right away. We find out that Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, has bladder cancer. They removed not only a cancerous tumor, but they announced also that they removed his entire bladder as well. And so there's some very serious things to talk about. There's some very light things to talk about. The very light thing is, Deion, in the way that only Deion can, joked, I don't pee like I used to pee. I thought the quote of the press conference was, all of a sudden, I depend on depends. And that was what Deion said, basically that he was back to normal, or not back to normal. He'll never be quote unquote normal, but that he is, cancer free, I think is the term to use here. And that he'll be coaching college football. Now, I think the scary part about it was we found out after the fact. The doctor went into it a little bit later on in the press conference, and she said, quote, not direct quote, but I'm paraphrasing here because, again, we're live reacting to this in real time. She said something to the effect of, once the cancer metastasizes, I believe is the right way to say that. I apologize if I got it wrong. That there is less than a 50% chance of survival. And so that, I think, raised alarm bells, whatever. Okay. So basically, this is the good news, is that he is cancer-free. He is coaching. Obviously, his life will be altered. He also referenced, if there is a porta potty on the sideline, that's not a joke. That's not for show. Like, his life has forever been altered. Okay. But I think first and foremost, I think I want to say this, is that, I speak for literally every single person in America that's like, I'm just so happy this man is okay. What is it? 5 children. If it's more, I apologize. If it's less, I apologize. Recently became a grandfather. And he's a young guy. He's right around 60 years old. That's still, in this world, a baby, and so I'm glad he's going to be there for his sons. I'm glad he's going to be there for his daughters. I'm glad he's going to be there for his grandchild. His mother is still with him in Colorado, so I'm glad he's going to be there for her. And I'm glad he's going to be there for his team. Coaching is secondary, but it's pretty cool that he is going to come back and be coaching this year, okay? And I think this just, I don't know, I think the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because something else that he said, which to me really kind of resonated and really just felt like something that absolutely needed to be discussed, is that, listen, I'm not a doctor and I try not to be preachy on this show, but I did think he said something that was very interesting. He said, guys, and I think girls too, go get checked out. Don't be a hero, whatever. I think that's something that, one, I think we all deal with in our lives. And I think, two, we all deal with people in our lives, right? I'm a guy, I still consider myself pretty young. And I can be stubborn. No, that cough is no big deal. No, that this is no big deal. No, that is no big deal. And I think it kind of opened my eyes of like, this is no joke. You only get one shot at this. And you could tell by listening to Deion Sanders just how serious this was to him, just how serious this was to people around him. I'll say this. I think maybe part of the reason I wanted to come on is just to maybe get a little stuff off my chest, because I'm somebody that has, I'm blessed. I have 2 parents that are still alive. They're in their 70s. They don't move as fast as they used to. They don't whatever. But I think it's a constant battle of just, are they okay? What's the difference between something that's not serious and what is? I have 2 in-laws that I love like parents that live right down the street from me, and it's the same deal. I don't know. It just, I think let me put it this way. If you're watching this, I appreciate you watching, and I want you to continue to watch until the end. But what I also want to say is that, go back and watch the press conference. It's long. It's about 40 minutes. But in the press conference, I think you can see the severity, the seriousness of the situation, but also the shine and the life that Deion Sanders brought to the situation. He was the one that was joking the whole time. He was the one that said, again, I depend on depends. He's the one that said, I don't pee like I used to pee. But it was serious, but it was lighthearted, but it was serious, but it was funny. And I just thought we had to talk about it. And I'm sorry for the ums and the ahs and all the social tics here, the verbal tics, I should say. I think it was just a lot to digest, because again, we didn't, like, let me put it this way. We didn't know what to expect coming in. We didn't know if this was, on the worst case scenario, life-threatening and he's got 6 months to live. We didn't know if it was the opposite. Hey, there was something scary in the summer, but he's good now. We didn't even know, again, to go back to the beginning, I think there were a lot of people that thought, oh, he's just looking for an excuse to sneak out the side door now that his sons are gone, and he's bringing up his doctors there to shield him from any criticism. And so I didn't believe that. But what I would say is I do think there were some. And so I think there were just a lot of people that, you didn't know what was going on. And I would recommend you spend 8, 10, 12, 15 minutes looking at that because it was surreal to watch. And I think anybody that has a loved one that has dealt with any sort of illness, I think it resonates of, are you getting yourself checked enough, fast enough? What happens if you don't? What happens if you do? This check could save this. It's just a very emotional thing. And I'll be honest, like I'm not even being sarcastic or funny. Like I was on the verge of tears, hearing him speak about it, the strength that he had and the strength that his doctors had. And so a couple other thoughts, this isn't something that we have to spend 20 minutes talking about or an hour talking about or whatever. But I guess a couple of thoughts that I do have coming out of that press conference are this. One, love the resolve. We just talked about it. By the way, you could drop your comments in as well. We'll get to them in a minute. But one, absolutely loved Coach Prime's resolve as well. Love the fact that he was serious. He had a message. He was lighthearted. But I love the fact, too, that he basically used this as a platform to, one, encourage people to get checked out, but then two, as importantly, I think continue to deliver a message and deliver a message of positivity. And I'll say this, if you take nothing else out of this, and maybe you'll disagree with me and maybe you'll be mad at me and Torres is a homer and Torres is a honk for Coach Prime, I don't know how you cannot love this man, okay? Listen, I know he's a little brash and he wears the flat brim hat and he wears it. Who cares? What is his message? Is he making the world a better place or a worse place? Because to me, this dude is unequivocally making the world a better place. And the line that he had that absolutely stood out to me, that nearly brought me to tears, he was asked a question about the idea of looking death in the eye. And you know what he said? He said, I never looked death in the eye. I looked life in the eye. I never looked death in the eye. I looked life in the eye. In his darkest moment, he was positive. He was energetic. And if he wasn't positive, he certainly faked it because it gave me chills. And I've said this a million times on this platform. And I think there's some people, Torres, you're just saying nice things about Deion because he creates interest and he gets clicks and whatever. This is what I would say. This is what I know about Coach Prime. This is all I know. We can debate the X's and O's. We can debate the coaches. We can debate this. We can debate that. Here's what I can see as an observer. He's somebody who loves his family unconditionally. And not only loves his family unconditionally, but set up a system where his sons could have success. And he also got to spend time with them, okay? I'll give you a quick side story. And this is super random, but give me 30 seconds to explain myself here, okay? I remember when the Kardashians first became a thing, and this was now like 15 years ago. And I remember arguing with my mom about it. They don't have any talent. Oh, they don't have this. Oh, they don't have that. Why? And I'm like, Kris Jenner has set up a system where her children are getting rich, and all they do is hang out together all day, every day. And as somebody who does live 3,000 miles from my parents, now I'll be honest, I don't know if I can deal with my parents every day. Mom, Dad, I love you. I know my mom listens to this show. My dad may see this. He may not. But like, I don't know that I could see you guys every day and hang out. That's not how we ever were as a family. But like, the one thing I know about Deion Sanders, his kids love him unconditionally. He loves him. He loves them, excuse me. And it's so funny, right? We always talk about in sports legacy. We always talk about this. We always talk about that. And here's my question for you. Legacy is the most nonsense crap that I've ever heard. Listen, I'm going to get serious. This is like a serious show. I don't mean to be a super serious here. But how many people really are going to leave this planet with a true legacy? Like Tom Brady is. We'll be talking about Tom Brady 100 years from now. Michael Jordan will. We'll be talking about him 100 years from now. But I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there are NFL quarterbacks. There are pro basketball players that aren't going to leave legacies. And most of us will not leave a legacy beyond, after we pass away. The one legacy you can leave is to the people that know you, though. And the legacy that Deion Sanders at minimum will leave. Forget the primetime, forget the NFL, forget the coaching, forget the MLB. It's clear that his kids love and adore him. What better legacy than that could there be. And so I don't want to hear this crap, but oh, well, he said this and Shador did that and shut up. Who cares? That's their personal life. Now, if they're harming other people, that's fair game. If Shador's driving 120 and a 35 and he shouldn't be, that's a fair conversation. But they're a family who clearly loves each other and spends a lot of time together, and I love that. I also thought it was interesting the doctor actually said that. She said from the beginning, because again, I think there was a sentiment that, oh, well, now that his sons are gone, he's just going to retire. He's going to walk away. Let me reiterate what I said off the top. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and let me explain why. It made no sense unless there was a medical condition that was serious, because I think a lot of people, again, were speculating, well, now that his sons are gone, he's just going to walk away and whatever. Dude just signed an 8-year, $54 million contract, okay? I don't have the exact math, but 8 times, what is that? 8 times 7 is 56. So he's making what? $7.5 million a year? Why would he sign that contract in March if the plan was to dip in July? Doesn't make sense. And by the way, it's not just, I mean, think about the players that would be involved, the coaching staff that would be involved. Some of his best friends on planet Earth are on the coaching staff. So this notion he was just going to bail because his sons were gone, I don't get it. Now, clearly because of his health, I don't think he's going to be there, another 20 years. But this notion he was going to leave was absolute nonsense. And so I thought it was interesting, his coaching staff, or excuse me, his doctor said that basically what was I going to say? That basically his doctor said that the only 2 things that he cared about were his sons and his football team. Now, he corrected the doctor. He said, it's not just my sons, it's all my kids. But I bring it up because this is a sports show. So as serious as this is, there is a sports angle to it. And by all accounts, he'll be coaching in 2025, the Colorado Buffaloes. And 1, it's just great news. 2, I obviously thought if he was physically capable of doing the job, he absolutely would. But yeah, so I listen, I think that's obviously in and of itself important news. He is going to be the head coach. Again, I'm sorry. It never made sense to me, the notion that he was going to recruit a whole team. He was going to recruit the portal. He was going to bring in Julian Lewis from, as a 5-star. He was going to bring in Caden Salter from the portal. He was going to bring in Jaheim Otis from the portal. He was going to bring in Jordan Seaton 2 years ago. Then he was going to dip. It never made sense to me. So he will be coaching. Listen, we got plenty of time to preview the season. By the way, our college football betting YouTube channel, we've already kind of started our team-by-team previews, so make sure to check that out. And we'll talk Colorado and stuff. Listen, I think Colorado is again going to probably be better than people realize, again going to be better than people give them credit for, but it doesn't change the fact that I think the most important thing in this moment is the fact that he will, in fact, be coaching this team. So I don't really have much else to add. I thought it would be good to just go live and talk about this a little bit. Chat is a little bit quiet. There are more interesting, things to comment on. But James says, woohoo, thank you, Jesus. Broomfield loves Coach Prime in Colorado. I assume that's Broomfield, Colorado, maybe. I don't think there's much else to add. Scary stuff. But again, as the son of 2 parents in their 70s, as the son-in-law of 2 parent-in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law in their 70s, just happy that he's okay. All right, I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. If you're not subscribed to the Aaron Torres pod, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you get your podcast, make sure to do so. Should mention a couple things. 1, if you're seeing this for the first time, we do have a Colorado-specific Twitter page, Torres on Colorado. By the way, if you are a Colorado student, we need an intern to help us run it. You can reach out to me, DM me, Aaron_Torres, Torres on Colorado. Just find me. Aaron Torres podcast questions @gmail.com is another place that you can do that. Beyond that, before we get out of here, I do think it is important, as you know, as always, to thank our friends, to thank our partners. We got to go ahead and thank Cauley Puffs and CauleyPuffs.com. Okay, so I've told you all about Cauley Puffs, but listen, I don't even want to make jokes about it, but Collie Puffs is a health food product, a health food product. Obviously, theme of the day is a lot about health. And so listen, that's what you need to know about Collie Puffs. Family-owned company not far from where I live. Joey, the founder, a young dude, and he kind of was sitting there saying, I need a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something I'm going to love, something my kids are going to love. I need Collie Puffs, okay? Collie Puffs are the alternative to the crap in your grocery aisle. They're baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But the best part is they taste delicious. If you are taking your health seriously, this is a good time to check them out. And here's the best part. All you got to do is go to colliepuffs.com. That's colliepuffs.com. And here's the cool part. You get 15% off your purchase when you use promo code Torres. So promo code Torres, colliepuffs.com. We appreciate their support. All for today's show. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Was not anticipating going live today, but it's time for us to go. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel Hates My Voice. Shout out to Coach Prime. So glad you're okay.